Greetings, technology enthusiasts. I am Chandrahas and I am delighted to be here with you representing CyberBrainer. Do you not believe that the technology sector is advancing at an unprecedented rate, making this an opportune moment to acquire the skills that will facilitate your progress? With CyberBrainer, we are empowering you to take control of your own future. At CyberBrainer, we do not merely impart your interests. We assert that information is power, yet it is the application of knowledge that distinguishes you. Our courses are meant to equip you with essential skills, whether you are pursuing data science, understanding artificial intelligence, or delving into cybersecurity. Let us commence the session and seize the future today. Thank you.
The main objective of today's meet is to have some kind of intro on Workday reporting. And yes, this entire course would be on Workday reporting. What covers in Workday reporting and what is the background of Workday reporting? All these things we will be covering in this entire course. And how many report types are there in Workday? And what is the future of each report type? And before you start reporting on Workday, what is the background of reporting and the base of reporting? You will be knowing here. And the important thing that you need to know when you start working on reporting is data model. Workday data model. On what data model Workday sits in. And when you know that, you will be able to understand how to actually report. You know anything in Workday. Reporting is nothing but whatever data that exists in Workday. You actually extract the data as how you want it to have as per business needs. Some business might be reaching you. Hey, I wanted to have employees who have got height last 1 year. Can you get me that in a kind of a pie chart format or in a kind of chart format? Grouping, for any specific department. When you get this kind of requirement, you must know where this data is sitting in. Where this data is sitting in how to pull the data on how to format the data in a way that business wanted to have. In order to do all these aspects, you need to know the data model. Where this data model is actually founded in Workday and how to actually identify which object is actually managing this data. Data model is nothing but Workday completely, manages its data in an object called object model. Whatever data that stores in Workday, that actually stores in the form of business object. Everything Let's say you hire an employee. That employee will be going into one of the object called worker. Worker is nothing but employee, right? When you hire an employee, that employee will go and sit into worker business object. Then when you are trying to report on worker, when you are trying to report on employee, you go to this worker business object and pull the information and show all the employee information. Workday completely manages its data in a data model called business object. Business object is nothing but it stores the data. Business object is nothing but have you heard any term called table? Table is nothing but which actually holds fields and instances, right? Fields, columns and all. Or let's say example, I'll take in an easy way. You have an Excel spreadsheet. When you open an Excel spreadsheet, what you will see? You will see empty rows, empty columns, right? When you open any spreadsheet, you see, let me open any spreadsheet. When you open this spreadsheet, what you are seeing here? You are seeing empty rows and empty columns, right? Similarly, if you relate this Excel to your business object is nothing but which holds the data in the form of columns and rows. Let's say, for example, worker. Let's take this Excel sheet as a worker business object. What this worker business object is holding: employee ID, employee name, hire date, and all other information of an employee. When it look, if you see this worker business object, it is holding data in the form of columns. Now we can say 123 is an employee ID, 331 is an employee ID, A, B, C, X, Y, Z is kind of name, hire date. Jen, I'm just giving some dummy data. Similarly, we have a concept called business object, which actually stores all the data in the form of rows and columns. And we have multiple business process, and we need to know which business object that you need to choose for which reporting that you're working. Let's say if someone asks you, get me all the worker information. You need to go and choose your worker business object and create a report to pull all the information related to employee. If someone asks you, get me compensation, information of employee, you will be choosing related business object called compensation and put all the compensation related thing. And someone asked you, I wanted to have both worker as well as compensation information. You will be using a worker as a business object and include the compensation information of the worker and create a report. Like that. You need to know when some requirement comes to you. You need to know where the data is sitting in and how to pull the data. When you wanted to know that, you need to know the data model that Workday maintains, which is nothing but object model. Object is nothing but which stores data in the Workday in the form of rows and columns. And that example, you can actually relate it to the spreadsheet, which actually contains data in the form of columns and rows. When you are aware of data model and when you are aware of which object to be used for which reporting, you are clear. 80% of your reporting is through. The other 20% you need to know is how to actually return the data and how to format the data. Those are the basic things that you'll be knowing once you know how to actually manage the data in Workday. That will be covered right from basics. Go ahead. You told me like the data is stored in the form of business objects. I have a question. Are the business objects common for Workday? Like for example, I work in company 1 and you're in company 2. Like all the data are different, right? But still the business object name is the same. It's all pertain to Workday. Is it? Or is there like they can modify according to their companies? No. Workday is a kind of unique product. Any company which is using Workday is their HR system and they don't have the data model as for business object. And there are a lot of companies which are using Workday as their HR system and they're using Workday reporting for many business purposes. And the common thing here is business. Object is one thing where Workday stores its data. This is same for all the customers who are using Workday system. In that case, Is there any cheat sheet like thing? For example, this business object has all these fields like that. Is there anything that Workday provides? Yes, we have. We have. We have all those things. We'll get to see when we get into the actual course and when you start actually discussing. Before you get into that level, you need to know the basic features of our business object. You know how it works, and all you need to know, and you need to know the difference between Workday reporting and the traditional Workday relational database management system reporting. All these things you need to know. Once you're clear on that, you should be able to retrieve the standard reports. We call it in Workday terminology. We call it the standard report, and you need to pull that standard report. What are the fields that are available in Workday and which object is holding those fields and which source is actually managing these fields and all. You should be able to view all those information in a standard report format. And before you actually get into the reporting, you need to know the traditional reporting structure. In all other traditional software applications, there are some kind of queries, SQL, SQL, and PLSQL kind of statements that you need to write in a database to return the data that is sitting in application. But in Workday, you don't need any kind of such kind of SQLs, such kind of PLSQLs, or you don't see any kind of relational database. At least you won't see any kind of database, external database system, because everything will be managed within one system called Workday. And there is no backend, there is no front end, there is no database. Anything exists for Workday. There is only one concept called Workday, which is a single application where you create reports, where you run reports, where you view the data. All the things will be happening in only one application. You will not use any kind of databases, you will not use any kind of SQLs, you will not use any kind of queries to return the data from Workday. Managing Workday reporting is as simple as how you actually manage your spreadsheets. It's not that complex. The only thing is, for complex reporting, you need to have some logical thinking and actually, returning the data. Let's say, there is an example. Like, there is a request of get me a kind of report that a dependent where employee dependent independent is nothing. But let's consider as child. Let's create a report for all the employees relationship where it is child and the child age should be less than 10 years. If this is a requirement, some logical thinking is required here. We need to actually, perform some kind of logics where your data has to come for only employees who has child where their age is less than 10 years. You need to actually build some kind of calculation here and do some kind of logical filtering that your data will get filtered and not looks for every row of the data that sits in Workday. It actually, meets the filter criteria and returns the data from your, logic that you have written. I know that 20% of your complex reporting requires some logical thinking, which will be, like creating multiple complex reports here and will get used to all such kind of evaluations in this entire course duration. when you wanted to generate a data in a graphical format, in a pie chart format, in a bar format. You know how business wanted to view their data in a high level. By looking at the pie chart, they should understand. You know complete data in the report. Such kind of reports can be managed through matrix reports. And there are a few other types. These are the three mainly used reports, but we'll be covering other types which are not mainly used also, that you know you'll have a knowledge when an ad hoc request comes to you. How to manage the other report types will also cover other report types. We have transpose report, we have inbox report, we have search report, we have composite report. You know we have other types of also which are very rarely used, but you have, for your knowledge. Purpose will be covering all the report types that we have in Workday. And that you'll have NPN knowledge of Workday reporting. And data source and its types. Data source is nothing, but as I said, right? Your worker is a kind of business object where you're actually selecting to return the worker information. Now data source comes into the picture and question you. You're actually reporting on worker, but what worker information that you wanted to retrieve? You wanted to retrieve contractors, you wanted to retrieve active employees, you wanted to retrieve terminated employees, or you wanted to retrieve retiree employees. All these kind of questions, data source will be asking you. You need to actually choose which data source that you wanted to have for your reporting. Data source is nothing but view of your business object. You're actually collecting data from business object. But data source comes into the picture and it performs like filters. It filters your data and gives you required information. Your data source, let's say worker, is a business object. Now, if you choose your data source as all active employees, it only pulls active employees. Or if you choose only all terminated workers, it will pull only terminated workers. Or if you choose data source called all retirees, it will only pull retiree information. We have the concept called data sources, what data sources that are available in Workday, and how to identify which data source is sitting in which business object. All these concepts will be covering, and we have a standard report in Workday which provide you this information as well. And we have two types of data sources. One is standard data source and index data source. We need to know when to use what you need to know, standard and index. We will be covering that, and that you will be getting an idea when to use index data source and when to use standard data source. And business object we covered, which actually manages data. We have multiple types of business object here. You can just imagine parent-child relationship. I have a question with data source. Yes. For a single business object, you mean like you can have a number of data sources. One business object can have multiple data sources. I have one question. Can all the data sources across all Workday, they named exactly the same, right? It's standard. Standard. You cannot create data source. You can use what Workday is. Yes, but you can create. You cannot create field also, but you can tweak the existing fields. That sits in Workday. Whatever the advantage of Workday is in other technologies, you create something in at field level. In other traditional reporting software, you will actually create. At field level, you will create. But in Workdays, you cannot create a field. You need to select the field Workday as given. But you have an option to tweak the field, change the format of the field, and all you have an option to do with Workday. That's the main advantage, where it less downs all the burdens. That we'll be seeing in reporting concepts. Just pick the data and show the data how your business wanted to have. Right. And normally when you get these requests, like your stories, when you are asked these in a working scenario, right? it will be stated in this format, right? Like I wanted you could. You'll be able to find it when you search in Workday. When you say format of the report, no, basically you're heading, like if you're saying your data source, you want all terminated that. But it's not always as simple as those data sources. Especially if you're doing maybe financial or something, it becomes more in-depth. They all Workday delivered. Am I correct in saying that? Yes, those are definitely a kind of Workday delivered. But as I said, right, there are types of data sources. One is standard and index, and standard is a kind of straightforward data source. But index data source are, will again, give you an option to drill down into. Few more options and, return the data, which actually reduces your reporting performance and optimizes your reports and return the data. Index data source will further give you an option to drill down more into the data and choose whatever data you want. Let's say we are seeing like all active employees, right? With standard data source. If you go with all active employees, then just get all active employees. But if you go with the index data source, all active employees, it further asks you a few more questions. Which organization and active employees that you want to have. It may be a time period and forth. It will ask, a few more drill down questions and, based on that, when you actually select that kind of options. Your report performance and runtime will get reduced and performance of the report, will run fast and return the data quickly. All these things will be actually practically doing, and before that will be actually seeing everything clearly. And once we have a conceptual understanding, then we'll go with the hands-on. And as I said, we have types of reports. I know one is standard report, what work they'll be providing to customers. And if your standard report is giving all the information that you wanted to have, then no need of going, with any kind of other reports that you wanted to have. You have the report, Workday is already given, and all you need to know is you need to have right access to view the report and run the report. Standard report is nothing but a kind of delivered report which Workday provides when your needs are not meeting with standard reports. When I know you're getting most of the data, but some of the data you're missing in the standard report. When your data needs are not meeting with standard reports, you have an option to go for custom reports. You can copy that standard report. The moment you copy your standard report, it will become a custom report. Then you can enhance your custom report as however you want it to have. Add how many fields that you want it to have and make the report to work as per your needs. Standard reports and custom reports are two types of report models that we have. And when the standard report are meeting our needs, we'll go with standard. And when it's not meeting our needs, we'll be actually going for custom reports and whatever report types that I said, right. Advanced matrix search report and all those comes under custom reports. We will be creating all those reports as per our needs, as per our business requirements. We create all those custom reports in an intended format, in a graphical format. However, we wanted to have to make the data to be visible in a clear format, in a graphical format. All these things will be customizing the reporting structure for our business needs and utilize the reporting concepts here. And as I said, right, those custom reports are advanced. There are 8 to 9 report types we have. We'll be covering each report type to get you a kind of sufficient knowledge in managing NTN, reporting concepts in Workday. I think this should give some basic understanding for today, and probably we'll be meeting from our next session. We'll be getting into the actual agenda and go in detail to talk more about our reporting structure. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel.